Let me know when it says live. I think it
Says
should
we're
be.
live.
Okay.
So this is the last meeting of
You're welcome.
the Government Relations Committee of the Clark County School Board. And we have a complete complement of board members. They include Antoine Stevens and Dr. Patricia Yeager and Dr. John Knox and myself, Greg Davis, as chairperson. The next item is to adopt or amend the agenda. And is Mike on here?
Yes.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm here.
Can I amend the agenda before it gets introduced?
That's right. If you do it now before you introduce it, then there'll just be a motion to approve it as you've changed it, and we don't have to amend it.
Okay. I moved that 4.2 that we take it off. And I think what my reasoning is that this is a subject that I think Dr. Thomas is going to be exploring with the entire board in January. Is that right, Dr. Thomas?
That is correct. Well, we have a board presentation planned for January to review our safety measures and program as a district. So yes, and a part of that safety includes security, but it's our school supports and security, looking at it from a comprehensive view, and then how the police SRO partnership fits into that. So we will have a presentation at our January work session.
Okay, and I know that I mean, we got on the agenda because county commissioners had contacted me about this topic, but the more I looked at it and the more I talked to people, it's not appropriate for us, and I think it's more in the purview of the superintendent and her presentation and then discussion that follows. So I would like to remove 4.2 from our agenda today and focus on the rest of it.
Okay, well, we will have open discussion among all of the board members. It was like one of the other items. It just seemed most appropriate that we have the presentation in January when our new board members are on. So
I think you're exactly right. And I think there's certainly going to be a lot of discussion around the role of law enforcement in schools and the school to prison pipeline. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff there that I think is way beyond the purview of this right now, at least of this committee. And I think that you as superintendent need to weigh in first. So with that.
Greg, before you do that, could you change January 2020 and item 4 to 2021?
Okay, let me see. I don't know if I see 4.
It'd be okay if we could go back and relive 2020 in a whole different fashion.
No, Kelly, no.
Where is that located?
It's on the on board docs. Yeah, it's just right up there. Okay.
Change that to January 2021 as our joint meeting.
Yeah.
And the date of that is January 25th. So we could even add that for specificity.
Okay.
Anybody make additions on this or not?
that would be Ms. Tillman. I don't know, Ms. Tillman, can you make additions?
Or if Lisa can as host. I don't know how this works.
You can change it because we'll change it.
Do you want me to go ahead and make it on this agenda, or do you want me to just make in the minutes?
How difficult is it it doesn't make any difference. I don't know. And John, what do you think?
You'll miss all my typographical changes, won't you? It doesn't matter to me. I just thought we'd be clear on that.
If we can go ahead and make it January 25th, so there's no question about what the date is of 2021.
Good. She's changing it now, I think.
And then if you don't mind, Angela, just take out,
Yeah.
if we could just, you could just scratch it, cross through it. I just want I wanted to reflect that we did not talk about it.
Right. So just get rid of 4.2.
Yeah.
And just to chime in here, January is when we plan to revisit the 2 security policies that we set aside this fall as well. So that'll be good timing.
Yes, it would be a good timing.
Okay. Well, I move that we adopt the agenda as displayed.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate accordingly.
Aye.
Antoine? Okay. Okay. Now we're going to move on to the action to approve the minutes. Just as a refresher, I think we're going to have to make Kelly a honorary member of the Government Relations Committee meeting. But
Back on the CCSD payroll.
But certainly Mayor Gertz came and spoke to us, and he had almost an entire full board there for that discussion. So that was I thought a very good sign in terms of you certainly piqued our interest, and
I do want to thank you for that opportunity, and I appreciate you being an interested partner in the mall TAD as a pilot activity. Just as very brief follow up.
And we also, as I think you listened into that meeting, and so we know that there's further discussions ahead, perhaps. But okay, so we have we've had a first and a second.
No, not yet, but now we do.
Okay.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
And all those in favor indicate accordingly.
Aye.
Okay. Okay, so this is our agenda, and it may take us quicker than the time allotted, or we may use it fully. I think there's a lot to discuss here. 4.1 was something that we talked about, Mr. Harris and I, as something that the board has been doing, and Kelly, I'm assuming that the commission has team building exercises as well, that they do.
We do. Just to give you a kind of snapshot of what our cycle has been like lately, given the volume of work we have to do and the sort of enormity of doing, both team building as well as sort of common goal pursuit, we've been having a mini retreat about every 3 or 4 months, both to sort of hone our skills as communicators with each other, as well as to do a better job highlighting sort of areas of common interest, just so we can collectively move forward as a body. I think the thing that maybe the public doesn't think about when they think about local elected bodies is they just think, oh yeah, y'all go make policy. But as you've discovered, being on an elected body is still a workplace, and you need to do all of the team building that's required in any workplace to be effective.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to ask Lawrence, have we reached out to anyone to facilitate this meeting on the 25th?
No, we haven't. What we talked about was that we will go through the talking topics today, and depending on what came out as y'all's interest for the 25th, we can find whoever's the expert there. I do think I do have someone in the back of my mind that I think would be a good person. She's with the Economic Development Office at the state. She works with Joint. She does a lot of Board of Educations and commission retreats if she's available, but it all just depends on what topics we're going to cover and if it seems appropriate for her to be there or virtually there.
Okay, sounds great. Yeah, and I asked that because of the team building and because people who facilitate have ideas. I don't have any ideas, and I don't know if anyone wants to weigh in terms of what they would think. I know the purpose of it would be particularly for the commissioners and the school board members to, get to know each other and a little bit more than simply reading their names in the newspaper, which is probably where we're at right now. So that is obviously the purpose of it, as I see it, is to get commissioners and school board members to get to know each other. And so
Well, I always also see it as I think Kelly mentioned, just getting on the same page with common goals. I mean, I can socialize with the commissioners if I want to, but I would much rather, talk about the common goals that we have as a combined body. Seems like we have a lot of common ground we should focus on. In the last few meetings that you've held, Greg, that we've had together with the commissioners, we've had really good discussions, I thought, about common interests. So I would like to continue doing that if we can.
okay. So suggestions about how to do that, because I think you're right on the money.
Mr. Davis, I'm happy to reach out to Ms. Evanson. Beth Evanson is the Region 5 representative for the Georgia Department of Community Affairs. I know herself, she's led the Georgia Academy for Economic Development, and she did activity with us that she actually does with Board of Educations and Commissioners, and Mayor Commission when she does their collaborative meetings. It does take about 25 minutes though. That's what I was thinking, depending on what the agenda is, how much time we want her to take up. But it's really talking about, sharing of resources, collaborations for planning. I don't know if she's available on the date that we have, but I'm happy to reach out to her and see if that's something you would like.
Certainly makes sense to me. I'm thinking it would be helpful to her if we do kind of maybe spend a moment or two identifying these common goals. We've certainly talked about just recently economic development as being something we approach it from different angles, but that's certainly we have a common goal of economic development in Clark County. Certainly in terms of the expansion of broadband, we've worked together on that.
I think related to that, Mr. Davis, is having just some discussion, and it sounds like this individual may be skilled in doing this, but discussion on our individual roles and then where that cross section meets. So what is the role of a board member? What is the role of a commissioner? And, how we allow each other to do our own work, but then where is that nexus? Like, where do we come together? And then what does that look like effectively? So not just identifying what those common interests are, but then when we have those common interests, how do we allow our commissioners to do their work? How do they allow us to do our work? And then what areas or how do we work collectively on those common areas? So, because I think sometimes it becomes challenging when there is muddying of those roles and allowing each group to do their part in that work while still working toward a common direction. So I think having just some discussion about what does that look like for each of us, and then how do we support each other in those common initiatives, and even sometimes supporting each other when it may not be a common and a detailed or specific priority that's shared, but still how do we support each other in our work? So Mayor Gertz, I think about even now navigating this pandemic world. There may not be a clearly articulated something that we're doing together, but yet you and I've talked, we've collaborated, we've shared. You've actually been on my list to reach back out to as we see changes and shifts and in the Athens Clark County community. How do we support you with that? How do you support us with that? So just really understanding those different roles and how we all operate within our own spaces, being respectful of each other's role. I hate to keep using that word, but supporting that shared work.
I think that's a great example, Dr. Thomas. It's been almost uncountable the number of emails I've gotten this year that were either directed at me and on which you or Dr. Gant were copied, or the other way around, where, community member says, "Hey, Dr. Thomas, Dr. Gant, Mayor Gertz."
Probably more the other way around. They're telling on me to you.
But it's true. I mean, I was in a nonprofit meeting early this morning, and some school district related questions around COVID came up. Unfortunately, I've got some experience sort of being in pieces of your shoes, and I could talk a little bit about just the very real staffing challenges of, having a fleet of bus drivers and a fleet of custodians and parapros and everyone else, and that it's just not a simple, yes, no, off, on, good, bad kind of a matrix. But I think that's the perfect example of, what ideally is this sort of ongoing fluid discussion and understanding of each other's needs and challenges at times.
Yes.
I've got a kind of a different idea for how to do this. And Lawrence, you can just roll your eyes at this. I think what y'all need is a Jeopardy round, where there's questions about different roles, responsibilities, parts of the different organizations. Especially, I'm assuming this meeting, Greg, will probably be online.
Yes.
Right. Well, what you need is some kind of trivia contest or something like that. That would make it kind of fun.
Okay.
Is it playing in the back?
Okay. Yeah, Lawrence says he's a champ at this, so he won't roll his eyes. I'm just thinking, because there are so many different parts, as well as interlocking parts, as well as things to distinguish. So I would like to take. I'll take overstepping the line for 200, Lawrence. Or something like that. I don't know. Just trying to think of something that would motivate this in ways, not to get in the way of what Tish suggested, which is just getting to know people. I think you can have kind of icebreaker things, but also to get at some of these questions in ways that are hard to get to until they show up, which is, is that really our domain? Is that, or in our case, is that the board's domain? Is that the superintendent's domain? Wait, is that really the commission that does this? The number of times those questions have come up is uncountable, I think. So I don't know.
Didn't we do something like that with GSBA? So it's almost scenario based, right? So, okay, this happens, whose responsibility is it? And sometimes it's both of us, or sometimes, so I think that is because when you're able to do a scenario, people are able to take the information and directly apply it, which helps you kind of understand it better. And yeah.
Well, before I move on, before we weigh in on this, other people, I want to recognize that Dr. Peterson is with us, our board member elect. In just a few weeks, she'll be a board member, and then so is Ms. Davis, our current board member, and also William Williams is with us. So, people chime in if, at any point. The Government Relations Committee, we kind of are kind of a collaborative body, and certainly want to take advantage of everyone in the room. What my only thing about, I see that as a really good thing. I would also like to break down into smaller groups. And so I guess, Lawrence, in terms of what I'm thinking, and I know it's a little bit difficult in the sense that that it's not like we can eat and do this. And we're basically sitting at computer screens. But generally I saw, based on what we're talking about, if we do a Jeopardy type thing. And then if we have an activity that is more specific around goals, I can see those two taking up the first hour. If we do both, and the goal and the looking for common goals would be something that we would do in much smaller groups, and then that would also achieve what I would like to do is again have folks from the board and folks from the commission talking together, and then that would in terms of so maybe, does that seem realistic, or does that seem like it's too long?
Greg, at first blush, I would think that, if we could compress the sort of maybe more informal part into 40 minutes or something like that. And what I do like about it enormously, just having been on a zillion variants of online meetings this year, is the ones that that have functioned well, where I've left where I thought, oh God, thing really happened here that was successful, are some of those where there were some breakout sessions. I'm on a couple different large mayors groups, and the ones where, we break into just trios or quads, and then back into the bigger group, those really have been gratifying, and I think allowed us to gain ground. So I think what you're describing makes some sense.
So maybe we would do that around 4.2. Is that, so that would, and we would cut down, we would have the Jeopardy piece of it. I just have a hard time with maybe we just leave it up to Lawrence and talking to Beth and that type of thing. Throw it in your lap.
My lap is gladly and willing to accept it. Any additional context definitely will help me in the planning process for sure.
Okay, because I think we want breakout sessions, and if we could have, if we could do a Jeopardy thing for 15 minutes, let's say if we do what Kelly's talking about in 40 minutes, if we do that for 15 minutes, and then we have a breakout group talking about some common goals, maybe for another 15 minutes, and then we come back and we have 10 minutes to share, and then we can move on to the next part of the agenda. I mean, that's I just throw that out there as what do you think about that, Kelly?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I've worked with Beth before. She probably could help sort of facilitate some of those guiding questions around which some of the small group discussions could happen.
Okay, Lawrence, it's all yours.
I will get with you, Mayor Gertz, and maybe we can work together with Beth Evanson.
Now we get to the larger topic, which is.
Can I just say one last thing?
Sure. Yes.
I would just encourage us in terms of choosing topics, stay focused on the strategic plan, or link whatever we're doing to the strategic plan, since that's kind of what we're supposed to do. So Lawrence and Dr. Thomas, I would, you pick the topics that are most critically aligned to your strategic plan for 2021. Seems like it's a good plan.
An excellent idea. Thank you, Dr. Yeager, and Mr. Harris. You and I can get together. I'm thinking of some things in the plan now, but we can get together and we can even share that out with this group after he and I look at it over the next 24 hours or so.
And I would imagine that the county has a strategic plan as well.
Yeah, we do have a goal set, and actually, as Tish was mentioning that, I thought, it'd be great to see the overlap of those two.
Yeah. Okay. So we get our strategic plan, your goal set, and somehow or the other weave those two in a 40-minute discussion, Jeopardy, and divide up and come back together and share. Sounds like a tall order, but Lawrence can do anything.
Or for now, we just focus on those nexus things that we have in common. You know, I think number one, make each other aware of each other's strategic plan. That's step one. Step two, let the two groups sort of identify the common ground. And then that's what we talk about this meeting, you know, and then as Dr. Thomas said, if we're aware of the other strategic plans or the other goals, we can support each other on those, but we don't have to, you know, do the work so much.
Right.
So I would be really curious to know what the nexus, what the overlap is. And if you guys, Lawrence and Beth, can do that work ahead of time, or maybe just send us both pieces and let us kind of look at them and see what we think. But that I would love to focus on that nexus.
And I think in terms of it may be something, Lawrence, that for this, again, we're still talking about 4.1. It may be useful for people to have kind of prepare for that in advance, so that we're not introduced to the to what's being orchestrated for the first 40 minutes, but they would actually have something to look at and prepare for, particularly like, you know, looking at each other's strategic plan, goals, and that type of thing. So
we can prepare a packet that the mayor and commission and the Board of Ed members, everybody gets before the meeting.
it'd be great. The next, can we move on, or is there anything else that we want to talk about in terms of 4.1? 4.2 is something that, you know, was really on the very first time that the superintendent encouraged me to reach out to the county government as chair of the government relations committee and work on a joint meeting or joint work session or retreat. This was on the agenda, was this youth development. And this is a little bit more specific than I think, and I just saw that, Kelly, that, you know, we may be talking about more about like youth development in general, but I think with a certain emphasis on the east side. So we don't be tied into just the east side. But I think we're talking about after school programming, we're talking about summer programming. And this was something that, like I said, was part of our first, at one time was on the agenda for our very first work session, but later it was decided that it was something that the school district didn't want to participate in at that time. So I think, you know, what I see needing first is looking at what is available to engage young people in this community pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. I mean, you know, we have all these things in place. Both the school system had after-school programming and educational opportunities, as did the and we had summer activities and educational pursuits. Of course, the county has a gigantic department, leisure services, and really seeking to involve, you know, young people in meaningful activity. And I think that there's still a sense that I think we all have a sense of a lot of kids falling through the cracks. I mean, they just, you know, and I think there's all kinds of reasons. It could be not having the money to having only a set number of slots where people can do something on a scholarship basis. I think we've had, there's transportation issues. There are, I know more about the issues that we've had with after school programming in Clark County, because there was a lot of variation from school to school, and some schools had more opportunity because the providers of after school activities, had to make a living, and so they would tend to focus in schools where they could draw a class together, whether it's karate or some other activity where there was a tuition. And so it's just a real big topic, and it would seem like that there's two pieces to it to me. One is what is available and what could be available. What's available and what is not available and could be available. Other opinions? Patricia?
I was just going to say, how does the Title I after school support come into this conversation? Can we use that to maybe set up intramural sports or opportunities like that might be using some county facilities, but would be school under the Title I? I forget what it's called. It's all, the studying, but also the activities, after school activities.
ESP, Dr. Yeager?
Yeah,
Music-
ESP, yeah.
Yeah, the Pathways to Success program. So I know that, and we could, Mr. Harris, you and I can look into that. I know that they did support co-curricular activities at one point that were, I don't know, like music or percussion or maybe dance. I'm curious to see if it allows for intramural, and I don't know, but that's a good question, and we can reach out to Dr. Angela Pope, who has been over that component of Title I, and get some more specific information on what those guidelines are.
But
Kelly?
even if it's music and dance, that would be really good too, especially if there were facilities available for that kind of stuff, not just
Right.
on campus.
Because I'm pretty sure that those components were included with the academic support piece when they were doing it at our middle schools, because that was kind of a middle school model. And I thought that those were offerings that were available, so we can find that out.
Okay, Kelly?
Yeah, I mean, I think, Greg, you and Tish and Dr. Thomas kind of highlighted a couple of really important things. I mean, one is just almost that information and awareness clearinghouse opportunity. And I think for those of you who are parents or who've had kids here in the community, part of the weirdness that you do, every summer or every sports season is sort of like line up your schedule with the schedule of every activity going on countywide. And there's really not sort of a centralized hub of that information. And so, you're hanging out on the YMCA webpage, and you're looking at the Boys and Girls Club, and you're looking at CCSD activities, and you're looking at county activities, and to sort of draw together people's breadth of awareness of, okay, here's, at least a sort of landing page for all activities, I think would just be a good thing for parents and kids. So that's one, in my mind, at least, like really piece of low hanging fruit that'd be easy to do. And then I think what Tish highlighted is, where are the complementarities that might not be happening to the degree that they could be, where, county has staff, but not space, or the school district has staff, but not space. And we could look for opportunity for collaboration. And then, I mean, I think what goes without saying is, like, where are the gaps? Where are there kids who, could benefit from some activity and they're just not getting into something, because that's, an ongoing challenge. And then finally, just a layer that is really on my mind this year amidst the pandemic that I think we're going to have to be conscious of for the next couple of years is, where are the curricular and educational and skill building gaps that have emerged simply because of the challenges of COVID that we could collectively hope to fill in the gaps around over the next couple of years. I mean, because I really think of kids' cognitive needs as needing some bolstering, probably for the next, let's assume we've got vaccine by mid 2021. It's going to take us a couple of years of rebuilding to sort of regain some of the elements that have been challenged in 2020 and into the beginning of 2021. And so whether that means that our leisure services staff looks at curricular needs as they plan their summer programming or autumn programming, et cetera.
Yeah, and I'm thinking also in terms of who else is at the table, because I know before the pandemic hit, I was trying to coordinate a couple of girls from Stroud who I had been working with as a tutor in first graders, and I really saw that they needed extra opportunities, and I had found out that there was something that UGA offered, and I was trying to get them into that program when the pandemic hit. But it's like the time frame. It's like you've got I just kind of stumbled on it, and but it was something for elementary school kids, and it was an extra summer activity that lasted a few weeks, and that's, I don't know how people find that out, because I was looking for something like that is how I found it out, but I knew I could finance the tuition, but I don't know if most people are even, looking in that direction. And then of course the Boys and Girls Club is well known, and but that's where the East Side comes in, because that's kind of outside of what's available for the kids on that side. I think the main thing that we need to be doing is trying to set up a structure about how to have this discussion, because I think Kelly raised a lot of points. I mean, there's that finances piece, and that's something that Trish was also talking about in terms of school funding. So we need finances, we need staff, and some of that's already out there. So I guess the first thing would be a clearinghouse, is what you were saying, right, Kelly? It's just have one place where every single possible activity and the requirements for a young person to be in that program, the cost to be in that program, the dates of when that has to when they have to apply. I know Leisure Services does that, and they will come out with flyers towards the end of the year, with that information. I like to think that they all get home, but does that seem like the first thing that we would cover under 4.2 is how to create some type of clearinghouse or some type of central location where a nonprofit would post, UGA would post.
I think that'd be good, and maybe that becomes a project that Envision Athens or someone else takes on. But again, that seems like a relatively easy task, compared to creating new programming or modifying existing programming. Is just to say, hey, what's out there? What kind of scholarships available by organization?
And also, I think it would be good to add location in there as well. You know, because I don't know if we talk about intramural, you know, I mean, who organizes these intramural athletics? Who's doing that?
You know, you've got some of them that are kind of totally independent, that are just neighborhood based, some of them that are faith community based, you know, some of them that are part of you know, a nationwide organization like Little League and others. I mean, it's scattershot.
So, I mean, it would seem like to be able to include those would be very helpful, because I'm just trying to think of parents who are struggling, just trying to figure out who are going to watch the kids during the summer while they work, and you know, will, unless they know someone whose kid is in something, or unless the child knows someone who's in. I mean, it just seems like that a lot of this stuff is word of mouth, and that's why I don't know about any of it, because I have no young children. So, so do we see including? I mean, how big a net do we throw out?
I mean, I think at this point, just if we as two kind of critical organizations started the conversation, we could sort of expand from there. I mean, it's, you know, in terms of just getting enough cooks in the kitchen to get the job done, but not so many that you're stepping on each other's feet. You know, maybe if we just began with conversation, you know, what would a clearinghouse or portal look like with CCSD and ACC?
I do think your comment, Greg, about not knowing all the things happening on UGA is relevant. And Mr. Harris and I have talked about this for at least a year now, of doing a better job of getting some sort of list of all of the UGA things going on related to K through 12 and even pre-K. So I can, I don't know, maybe Lawrence, you and I could talk offline at some point about how we go about doing that. I have a pretty good network we can start the conversation with at UGA. Maybe John can even help before he disappears. We have, you know, and Dr. Anderson as well. So starting to put together those lists of things we know are going on at UGA. And
I'm just wondering if I mean, we could use this meeting to try to, you know, bring to the table. I mean, have someone from the Boys and Girls Club kind of like lay out in a skeleton form what they offer. UGA is, I can see, difficult because you know, the science department may sponsor a science camp and no one else knows about it. So that may, I don't know if I don't know how organized UGA is in terms of keeping track of that interface between various departments and youth in the community. Is there anyone there at UGA who's kind of like working in that area?
Generally, Allison McCulloch as sort of community engagement liaison sort of makes me aware of those kinds of things. But even the community engagement newsletters they send out don't cover everything. But I could see sort of after our January gathering, you know, that being a sort of task assigned to somebody to, you know, basically be the detective.
Okay.
yeah, and I know some of the leadership in the education school. We can probably start that conversation as well with some of them. I know they reached out to me when I first got on the board to talk about it, and it's just, you know, then the pandemic hit. So I'll start that conversation up again and start that process. Allison's a good link. Thank you for that. That's a good idea. But also, you know, the dean of the School of Education was a former board member, so certainly familiar with the overlap. So
If I may add, I think it's helpful to maybe start with the two organizations or three if we add UGA as a whole to kind of see where we're all at, kind of almost a state of the three organizations before expanding it to the outside partners. And the only reason I say it is because I don't want us to become selective and only inviting certain organizations to present or talk to us. And we have many who work with our students. I know Mayor Gertz and I were at an event last night. It was very powerful at the East Athens Community Center with one of our local nonprofit partners. So I just don't want to, and I love the Boys and Girls Club, but we also have the YMCA, YWCO. So I just don't want us to be in a game of only picking certain groups to come and present. If we can start maybe by doing like analysis of where we all are. What is leisure services? I know they have a really strong website with, all the different athletics and sporting and summer camps. And then what do we have that we promote the 21st century in ASP? And then what UGA has, maybe Allison can kind of talk through that and we can kind of determine next steps. And I don't know, Attorney Pruitt may have some thoughts on it. I also wonder how much are we able to promote internally on our websites if we have outside partners, and what kind of safety measures we want to put in place before we just promote everything that's in Athens. What kind of clearinghouse do we have to make sure it's all sound and we're not liable for anything too? So just some thoughts.
Okay. So what we would do is, should we invite UGA then, and just those three? What do you think, Lawrence? I mean, so you think that would be where it's going?
Yeah, I think that's fine. It doesn't hurt. I think Allison would be a great addition to come in and talk. And me and Dr. Yeager, if Dr. Knox is willing, we can work on some background. I know I've worked with Miss Shannon Brooks now. We talked about some stuff, and Josh Podman in the Office of Service Learning. There are definitely a lot of organizations who work with our students. And Matt Bishop, I know they've done stuff through the Fanning Institute with the different camps that work with our students. And, right now they're making decisions around, with COVID, a lot of the overnight camps has been canceled. So we could probably just consolidate a lot of the information together and just figure out how do we share it with our families.
How do we find out who is falling through the cracks? I don't know if it's a geography question.
I think the Wellbeing Project that Mayor Gertz put up in the chat is a really good resource. She does a breakdown school by school originally, elementary school by elementary school, and she's also talked about being able to give us other data as well, more like high school or anyway. Great. I think Grace would be a really good partner in terms of identifying need.
Okay. So they did it like school zone by school zone.
Yeah.
And they did the recreational piece and that type of thing.
Well, more childcare, I think, focused, like who needs childcare. Okay. So are you suggesting her as a presenter, or just using her as a resource? Well, we all would need to read her report. That would be the place to start. And then if we had questions, bring her in. I'm sure, she spoke with this committee before. She spoke with us a month ago. So I'm sure she would be willing to. Yeah, I guess I didn't think the Wellbeing Project was that much into the recreational piece, but I have not read it. So, well, I think it's more, focused on after school childcare needs and summer childcare needs. The cost relative to income imbalance, right. The fact that parents can't afford childcare, and how much they're spending on childcare relative to their total income and that sort of thing. So. I haven't read her July 2020 report that Mayor Gertz just linked us to, so I need to look at that. But it certainly does address some of this territory for sure. It sounds like, Lawrence, if one thing if you could help us on is to get, maybe we need to develop a reading list for the commissioners and the school board members. And that could be part of that reading list, part of that packet, and encourage people to do that.
Add it to the list for the packet.
Yeah. Now we did, when Lawrence and I talked, we did kind of focus on the east side a little bit. Of course, this is where John and I have been talking about this for a long time, and you know, feeling like the east side has been neglected, with the kind of the stepchild of the county, and so and I know this isn't the place to do it, but it does, the fact that we don't have, specifically a boys and girls club on the east side, and I know that there's talk about one, and also not having a library either, which I know has been talked about, and is something that I think both those things are part of
SPLOST 2020.
Right.
Yeah, so we've got about $15 million for an East Side library and $4 million for a youth development center on the East Side. It's a timely conversation because we as a body are tiering our SPLOST package, determining which will come kind of in which set of years. So by all means, I encourage you to contact your county commissioners if you'd like to see those projects happen sooner rather than later. I'll share. I think it's pretty widely noted that those will probably be in the first few years rather than the last few years of the package.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really important because of what the kids have experienced beginning in the end of last year and this year. I think we need a lot of catch up in this community, and it's not just academics, but I think academics is an important part of it. And I think that there are a lot of kids who learn a lot on their own at a library. I think in terms of if we can get, I don't know if there are other areas of the town that are also neglected. But I think it's good for us to look at this as a geographic, factor as well. Okay, so we've got Lawrence. What do we have so far in terms of how this will flow from the way you look at it?
So according to my notes, we're going to start out with a engaging activity, potentially with Beth Evanson, Jeopardy style, to determine or discuss goals and strategies and alignment between the Mayor and Commission and the Board of Education, that we plan for that to take between 40 to 45 minutes. Then we want to have a come back together as a group, or no, that is the group. Then we want to break out around the goals and strategies. Sorry, I said that wrong. Breakout is the fun piece. The goals and strategies are the breakout, where you want to discuss for about 15 to 20 minutes the alignment between our plans and come back together to share with the large group. And then we want to transition to what 4.2 is, which is the youth development opportunities, where we'll discuss what each institution has in regards to youth development, summer activities, after school program. And me and Dr. Thomas have some homework with ASP in 21st Century to determine what kind of funding opportunities we as a school district may have. And then the goal with that is to determine whether or not we want to move forward with some type of central clearinghouse, and what type of gaps may exist in youth programming. So Dr. Grace Bagwell Adams may also be invited to help us kind of walk through that part of her report. According to my time on this, it's looking like we're right around 2 hours, potentially more, but it looks like we're right at 2 hours if that's the length that you were thinking.
I think that with the one piece, and Kelly mentioned it a while back, but this summer is going to be different, and for this to be kind of a meaningful exercise, it would seem like we really need to kind of begin to think what summer looks like this coming summer, both academically and which is more our side, I guess, but what it looks like academically, what it looks like in terms of recreationally. And I don't know if, is this something that Leisure Services, Kelly, would have already begun to explore?
Blaine could probably talk a little bit about kind of what the internal dialogue has been like on staff level. I know Ken Kilpatrick has done some thinking already about next summer. Blaine, I don't know if there's anything that you can highlight in terms of looking 6 months down the road there.
Well, I'll state the obvious. Good evening, everybody. Um, obviously depending on COVID and how your interactions with students continue to go, we haven't necessarily picked up any programming. We know which camps, and I think we also recognize that the summer camps, serve as childcare as well, and so our day camps are extremely popular. The mayor has mentioned, and I think we're totally open to exploring what builds on, your investment, your efforts with the children. A lot of our camps are mostly, active outdoor type camps, but we're certainly ready and willing to discuss what's possible here. And I think that we've already been building on some successful after school programming in the last couple of years. So I think during this time period, Chair Davis, if appropriate, I think we talk a little bit about what's been accomplished to date and then explore what's possible. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, I'm so there are things that are going on right now, is what
Yes.
you're okay.
That's
And so how are they being conducted? Just not necessarily virtual, right? It's just in place, just social distancing with masks. Is that?
Yes, we got some interaction. At least when school was in session, we had after school sessions at 4 of our community centers, and I think we had a partnership at Hillsman, if I'm not mistaken, that we were working on. Lawrence, is that right?
Gaines.
Gaines, sorry, that's what I meant. And we were looking to build on those with y'all. I think we were trying some different things out, and this was pre-COVID. That we've tried to flex. What I'm saying is these intentions were there pre-COVID. They were altered with the advent of COVID, and we tried to adapt to fill in the gaps as we've had resources available.
Okay. So we're essentially, maybe Dr. Thomas, maybe you would, are all our buildings potentially open during the summertime, or at least pieces of them potentially for youth activities?
I'm not 100% sure what you mean. We have all of our buildings, and it varies from year to year. Like normally, what buildings might be hosting summer school? Like we might do that by quadrant. So summer school may be at Gaines and Alps and Whitehead and Fowler. So that varies, and I can't, say 100% right now what this spring summer is going to look like. But there's always a potential for them to be open. The other thing we always consider in the summer is just a rotating schedule for allowing for thorough cleaning before the next year starts. So those are all things we just we look at and we work on. I think Girls Club has always used Alps Road for their YWCO camp activities. So there is that potential there, would just be a matter of scheduling, looking at what, if anything, that we're doing through Title I in terms of remediation and support for our students, and what we're needing to do in terms of repairs and that kind of things. But the potential is there. I just can't say definitively what's occurring in what buildings at this point.
So really, in terms of the summer, right now we're just trying to get through figuring out what's going to be happening next semester.
I'm just trying to get through tomorrow at this point. Really just tonight, Dr. Yeager's like, yeah, can I just get through tonight? Yes, but so yeah, it's always an option. They're our facilities, these are our students, and there's always the potential for us to open those facilities for what those needs are. We just would do that with the plan, that's all.
Because what I'm thinking is that if we, if we are looking at specifically activities for this summer, you know, trying to publicize things, trying to create this clearinghouse that can be utilized in the future. But if we're also trying to figure out what to do this particular summer, you know, kind of what we're doing in our classrooms, where we've got small clusters of students. And so if there is a infection, it doesn't wipe out an entire, in this case, summer program, because they're all focusing on one building. It would maybe they're in 3 buildings, and whether it's Lay Park or Barrow Elementary, or, you know, if they're just kind of spread out, that might be one way of approaching it. Other comments?
So is this going to be part of our gathering on the 25th of January discussion? Is that what I understand? Or
I
is
mean,
this-
I think we need to be cognizant of it, and so I think we're kind of establishing, you know, some way to consolidate and involve the entire community in them knowing what is available. But I think we also need to at least be aware that this is going to be an unusual summer too, and how we can accommodate that. Kelly, is that kind of what you were talking about? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of this phrase that Dr. Maxine Easom, who was my first principal in the district, would sometimes use in faculty meetings when I worked for her at Coyle, and she would say, we don't know everything here. We have to have a tolerance for ambiguity. And I think as we head into the summer of 2021, we all have to have a tolerance for ambiguity, just because, you know, we just don't know so much. But what I think is important about this conversation and subsequent ones is that we're talking. And so sharing information as we move forward, and we do figure out, all right, which leisure services activities are possible, what district activities are possible, because I think it's going to be a work in progress. There's what I can say for certainty is we will not know on January 25th what's going to be happening in June.
For sure. And when did the January 25th date get set? Is that real firm, or is that, I'm sorry, that's the first time I've heard of that date, and Monday nights are going to be hard for me, but
It wasn't on my calendar either, Dr. Yeager. I just hurriedly put it on there.
I did throw it out at the last board meeting, put it out there. It was on the well, it was in the notes, and I referred to it. Well, I mean, that's our traditional date, is the last. That's what it's been, the last Monday of January.
okay, that's fine. Thanks.
I just need to ask Ms. Palmer to put it on everyone's calendar. Or is Ms. Tillman going to do it, Mr. Harris? I guess that would be Ms. Tillman's to do. I'll stay out. I'll get back in my square.
But Lawrence and I talked about it, and I thought you cleared it, Lawrence, with the CCSD calendar.
No, but we'll get it on the calendar. Me and Ms. Tillman will get it shared out for everybody.
Okay, Lawrence, can you kind of summarize how we're going to approach this? I mean, this youth development piece is just, I mean, I feel like I'm, my own mind, I feel like I'm grabbing an elephant, because it's so huge and it's so important, and then we're doing it in the middle of a pandemic. But
and it may be helpful to just, acknowledge that widely and say, hey, here are some tangible opportunities and then maybe some future opportunities.
Yeah, and I was wondering, Mr. Davis, maybe what I can do is, I could work with Mayor Gertz between now and the 25th. I know they're hosting this one, so maybe I could talk with them more offline about the kind of like that part of the agenda. I think it sounds like we may want Mr. Kilpatrick, so maybe Blaine, we can help to get Kent there to kind of talk about what exactly has been done and what's been accomplished over the past couple of months. They also had summer programming in different ways this past summer instead of kind of the remote learning zone. So maybe he can give us an update on that. And I could work with Mayor Gertz to just kind of talk through other details that we may want to know. And if there's other questions that the committee wants, I think, I can work with Dr. Thomas. We can figure out what staff may need to be present. And I think about it, last time we had this meeting, we had several staff members present to give presentations. So maybe Mr. Kilpatrick can give one. And if there's any staff on our side, Mr. Fisher or Dr. Pope, who does 21st Century, she can kind of just tell us the lay of the land. What are they thinking? Where are they? And then that can be kind of a jumpstart to a good conversation.
Okay, I guess Lawrence, you are really key to this. This is exactly the kind of stuff that you're doing. And, if these joint meetings are to accomplish anything, they should help grease the wheels for closer and closer collaboration. And, particularly when we're looking at, where these boards come in is financial pieces, like for instance, if, like what Kelly said, if we are really aware of the fact that the East Side has limited opportunities for youth development, then school board members need to be talking to their commissioners about the importance of moving that up in terms of the SPLOS, the county SPLOS. I know that there's other pieces to that, land discussions and everything that need to take place. I don't know. I do remember there having been programs that at one time or the other, this was before I even came, where they were actually busloads of kids that would be taken to Bishop Park in the summertime, and they would use the school buses, and they had a big athletic program, and by the time I got here, they had just gone away, and I don't know why. I don't know if it was a coordination issue or a loss of a grant or whatever. But I just wanting to make sure that we've got, that we use this meeting so that the needs of the county to involve the youth and the needs of the school district to involve the youth, are both shared and do that cooperatively. I think one of the biggest things that the county did is with public transportation and letting our youth ride for free. That was huge. Mike just posted something about using UGA. I remember that UGA did have a big program at Clark Middle School, but that goes back 10 years. I don't know if they're still doing that or not.
It hasn't actually been that long ago. It was with Jana Dresden and part of the PDS partnership, and they did a enrichment program. It actually just ceased since Dr. Means has been here. There was a big program there, and I wish I could remember the name of it, but my brain has stopped for the date, but it has not been gone for long. And they used UGA students to help support that initiative. It was like an enrichment camp.
And then I do remember there was another program that was at, what now, Dr. Thomas?
I told Miss Davis, thank you. It was Camp Dive, yes.
There's also was a program at Lake Park that UGA students would go over and work with our students, and that became an issue, and I'm not sure why, but it did end. But there was some type of financial that at that time the county needed for this college group to pay for the space. And they were just a group of college kids. They had a name, they had an organization, but they would go to Lake Park, and then kids would go from Bethel Homes over there for after school activities. And so, I mean, that's the kind of thing that certainly, I mean, that was under a different administration for county government and everything, but certainly those are things that if we know about it, and if, you know, and if it's a financial question, then of course the school board and the county commission could help work on that.
So it seems like we're kind of doing some of the agenda work that we have outlined for ourselves at the meeting to really explore what's there, you know, what are our needs, what are our options, and our next steps, and where do we go from there. I think we have a good agenda, and Mr. Harris, you have a very good to-do list and the what next. And so, and you reviewed that for us already of who you're going to contact and next steps. So it seems like we have our marching orders to ensure, hi Kitty, to ensure that we're ready for the 25th, and Mr. Harris and Ms. Tillman will get that 25th on our calendar. And listening to everyone, Mr. Davis and Mayor Gertz and County Manager Mr. Williams, it sounds like we all kind of know where we need to head in terms of this conversation, recognizing that we can't be definitive with anything with where we are with the pandemic, but at least we can start making some plans for next steps.
Sounds good.
I agree.
Sounds good. Thank you for summing this up, Dr. Thomas. Okay. Are there any last comments before we adjourn?
It looks like Mayor Gertz wants to say something. Don't cut him off. He's trying to get unmuted.
No, I was just saying goodbye. Good night.
Oh, okay.
Goodwill.
Okay.
Godspeed.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming. Thanks, Greg.
Okay, well, let's adjourn the meeting.
We need to adjourn. I move to adjourn.
Motion.